Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the WUSA's official podcast. Joining me today is Arya Razmjoo. He is the current Vice President of WUSA. Arya, go ahead and give yourself a quick introduction.
Yeah, hello. I mean, there's so many cameras around me. Which one do I stare at?
You're probably going to be looking at that
this one
mostly, and then that one a little bit.
Okay, awesome. So yes, my name is Arya. I'm the current Vice President at WUSA, and subsequently the Vice President of Finance now at OUSA, which is another organization we engage with as an association. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for joining us. So just a quick sort of candid introduction, starting off with why you picked Waterloo as your university of choice, or if it wasn't your university of choice.
That's a very cool question, yeah. I almost went to Queen's, believe it or not. Very different. When I was applying, I think I came to this university inevitably because of the same reason we all come, the co-op program. How does that work out for me? Well, this is my co-op program, so I would say decently, but yeah, the co-op is what got it. For me, funny enough, I got my acceptance to Waterloo right on my birthday. Like, it's May 8th, and exactly that morning, I wake up, I look at my phone, I had my acceptances to all the other universities, so I knew like what I was looking like, and I was like dead set on Queen's. I'm like, I'm going to Queen's, it's what it is, I'm prepped. I pick up my phone and I see ding, a little fat lion face just right on the email, welcome to Waterloo. So I was like, okay, you know what? I thought about it, and the opportunities we have here are also really strong. I think academically, socially, maybe not so much, but we're building that.
Not socially.
Not yet. We're working on it. There's some really fun stuff planned this year, but definitely it was a school that I found that could match the needs I need, as well as the programs I'm in, which is legal studies and communication, are so unique. I'm happy I came here because I found those. I got in as a psych student. It took me 2 days to change majors. I just want you guys to know this. So psychology, for all of you study a wonderful degree, but bless your hearts. I was going through the book, the big ones they bring of like what it is. I'm going through the pages. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just like self-diagnosing out here. Not smart, not smart degree. So yeah, I did legal studies and communication. And if I had gone to Queen's or any other school, it would not have happened. Funny enough, because those programs don't even exist in most schools. So I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Very cool. So with those degrees then, are you aiming to be a lawyer down the line? Is that something that you're thinking of?
See, you said it as if you almost said a no, Rory. Yeah.
Well, hey, our viewers don't know.
Yes, so interestingly, I do want to pursue law and then go into the legal field. Most people who do my job as well want to probably study something like human rights and international law and so on. No. If you find from the beginning, I said I was the VP of Finance for UCRU, so my big area would be probably to go into real estate law, hopefully, if it works out. Knock on wood, make that money, and with the money, anything is possible, I say. So, I was planning to take the LSAT this year, but interestingly, with the level of workload of my office, I discovered that's impossible.
Yeah, you might be a little bit busy there.
A little busy, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that you're really in it for the money at the end of the day. Is that what I'm hearing from
Those are the words
Vice
of the
President?
Fake news media. You see, this is why they get you in these interviews. I do it for the love of the people. So does the money help to incentivize? Psh, no one said no. It's what it is. It's life.
I'm great. I'm sure that the students of Waterloo would love to hear it.
I know. I'm an honest man. With me, at least get honesty. Not a problem. There we go.
Yeah. So besides studying for the LSAT and busy working on your job, what do you get down to do with your free time?
Rory, nowadays I usually say what free time because you would assume like it's hard for a everyday person to say, oh, what is it you do? We go through a lot of meetings, like because you're one of the few student leaders in our system who is actually present. You have to be the one. It's either me or the president who pretty much goes and sits through everything. I think hobby-wise for me nowadays is just going to the gym when I think that time. And you know what? Believe it or not, it makes a big difference, right? It's an opportunity to get there, get some exercise in you, get some energy, work out, forget about work a little and get things done. But we're really so busy usually that, this is life. As Roy, you did the job before, this is really like the life. It's 24/7 with our jobs.
Yeah, well, speaking of 24/7, I know you just got back from a whole slew of travels.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And so maybe you were maybe interested in talking a little bit about how that experience was.
It's been interesting. It's been good. So there was 3 main trips this month that I took. One of them we went to Ottawa with CASA, which is our federal advocacy group. So those are the guys who go to things like the Prime Minister and members of the federal government and actually advocate on behalf of you. So we had a very good conference there. It was a beginning. We elected a board, we elected a government, and we set out mandates for the year of strategies of what we want to advocate for and how we want to position ourselves. Interestingly, we at the University of Waterloo founded this organization long ago, but we're no longer a full member, we're observers. Hopefully this year we're going to take a look at our federal advocacy positions again and try to work out a new deal. But CASA is a very strong and capable organization, so it was very good to go and meet all the different student leaders and the whole team on that front and work to set up the priorities that we want to pursue federally. After that, I literally had to jump on a train and go to Montreal for a little bit because we went to StudentCare. So this year students passed in our general meeting gender reaffirming healthcare as something that they want covered. So there has to be negotiations at that front and prices to be checked. So I went there and did some work there with Nick to get some codes to understand a little bit about how we can pursue that. And hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to have a deal on our hands that gets coverage for all our students on that front as well. After that, again, as you can see, I'm on the road a lot. I had to go to Toronto for a provincial lobbying group called OUSA. So that's the member which I'm an executive of. I was elected by the board of schools who are members of it. And we set up the board, we set up executive positions. There's me, which is the vice president of finance of the organization. We have the vice president of human resource and HR. McMaster Student Union covers that one. And then there's, of course, the presidency and the chair of the organization, which Western University Student Society covers. So we set some mandates up there too, worked on a long-term plan. I'll be going back there next week again to set up some other work. So getting the grounds up and running, making sure we have our schedule set for the whole year, making sure that the advocacy positions that students at Waterloo want are at the top of the line. I'm working with that board to get everything passed. So that's a lot of the bureaucratic, boring job, a lot of negotiating you got to sit in the rooms and do, but it's important work that lets us advocate properly for all our students.
Sounds good. So starting with CASA, I guess.
Sure.
What are some of the key priorities that have been discussed at the meeting?
Yeah. So interestingly, in the way education works and higher education in Canada, it's a provincial matter. So when it comes to federal advocacy, it's very niche in areas we usually can move forward on, right? Things like transportation and housing, of course, are at the center block of the advocacy we do, but also indigenous issues as well here. So federally, actually indigenous students' education is very much controlled by the federal government. So things like grants for indigenous students, support for them, opportunity to do co-op access for them, all of those are highly dependent on the federal government giving the funding that which we need in those areas. When it comes to funding for things like housing and so on, the federal government gives a lot of money to municipalities and provincial governments. They can control a lot of their influence through the amount of funding they give or the amount of funding they restrict. So the big portion of our advocacy on that front will be to go down and set up actual policies or best practices for the federal government, send those recommendations through CASA to them, and make sure that they are taking actions necessary that cuts red tape so we can actually build homes for our students and get to the cause of the issues, promote resources and financial aid for indigenous students so they have adequate and equal access like everybody else in our community, and also working to develop transit here, because in Kitchener region it is very old and outdated. So we'll be working very closely, even though it's provincial mostly, the federal government for them to incentivize our provincial partners by offering grants and offering actual monetary value so we can get the projects up and running. But it's very niche in CASA. Most of our big lobbying work would fall under USA's jurisdiction.
Yeah, sounds good. And obviously CASA is a new organization that we've only recently joined.
Yes.
So just navigating that system, how have you been finding it? Do you feel that CASA is well enough equipped to sort of achieve these goals that they've set out? Like, will we be, should students expect in the near future, better housing, more affordable housing, or is this sort of a long-term plan?
I'll tell you what, CASA this year managed to get every single one of its advocacy asks in the new federal budget that came out, actually. So they 100% had a success rate of actually getting funding from mental health to housing that they wanted. Every single one of their policies actually passed forward and is in legislation. They're right now working with the government to pass a new piece of bill that mandates for federal elections to be held, their polling sites, right here on campuses, actually. Like a legitimate law that ensures that students now have first access to polling sites, because if a polling sites can be in a university setting, it will be in a university setting. So it's bills like that. That one is in second reading now. Hopefully by the time it passes, it will be near midway through this year, assuming nothing big or major occurs. But it's a very strong organization. I would argue it is probably the most successful federal advocacy group for students that currently exists. There are other groups as well. We're part of a group called UCRU, for example, which is the top 15 undergraduate research intensive universities, even though not all the top 15s are there, like Alberta, University of Alberta, their group is part of CASA. But it's a very effective organization. Can I say other groups are as effective? I will not say that. They're not. But CASA does very well for itself. So I'm very impressed with the organization.
Yeah, so speaking of these other organizations like UCRU, I know that obviously we are still a member of that.
Yes.
And so how have those discussions been going? I know there's been plenty of concerns historically with how that organization operates and its let's say quality of things that it puts out.
What makes CASA different is that CASA has full-time staff outside of the teams that we can bring in. They have their own policy analysts, they have their own lobbyists that they work with. So we set the policies and they have professional people who've been in the industry for a long time go out and do the advocacy for us. UCRU, for example, doesn't have it. So it's just me and whatever staff from our organizations I decide to pull, which means there's a lot more pressure on us. And the work is usually not as effective as well because they don't have their own home office team assisting on what we can do and what we need to do. With CASA, there's a fee involved. It is the cheapest organization actually when it comes to lobbying because it comes down to $1.8 per student, like less than a coffee nowadays. And that's something that if we want to become a voting member of CASA, we'll have to pay. Students don't need to pay that necessarily. There's other ways of going around it to get the money. But UCRU is free. But then again, it hasn't achieved any federal advocacy goals, at least in the time that I've been around. Yeah.
When it comes to CASA, I guess there's obviously the concern around the fact that Waterloo only gets one vote. This compared to, colleges who might also be part of CASA who also get one vote. And so despite making up at times 10 or more times the number of students, we only get, the same comparative amount of votes. Do you think that's a concern with the CASA system? Do you think it might be too, small party oriented with its, policy goals and stuff like that?
I think CASA was founded to prioritize the voice of all students. I think oftentimes when you go to big universities like ours, we get this elitist mentality of we're Waterloo students or we're like U of T students, our voice matters more than others. But students who go to colleges or universities that are smaller are still students who struggle with the exact same issues that we struggle. They still have housing problems. They still have, transit problems. And from my talks with many associations, it was very much the same. Everybody had the same issues, and our parties were still at the top of it because, again, student parties across the board in this country seem to be the same things right now. We have huge inflation, right? We have a food insecurity crisis that's heading us. We have, I hear every day from students who are paying something like $1,200 for a single bedroom now. Here in the Kitchener region, which is crazy. So when it comes to addressing these, it's about being united because when I go and I speak to members of parliament as just the person who represents 35,000 students, it's not the same as when I go and I represent hundreds of thousands of students, right? We have the same issues. I think it's fundamentally in our interest to all stand together and fight as one.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And so I guess you're still optimistic about that organization now?
Yes, I think CASA has a very bright future. For other organizations, I don't know. I'll make recommendations to our board to make choices, and of course, it's the students who inevitably have to have the answer of do we want to pursue this or that, or where do we want to go with the dollars that you pay into the organization. But federal advocacy is important. It makes a difference, and I think firmly we should partner with organizations that can actually achieve it.
Sounds good. Moving then to your next location, after you got out of your time in Ottawa and were able to head on to Montreal, and you're meeting with StudentCare, I guess.
Yes.
And so, most students, I guess, besides seeing the invoice on their transcript or their invoice for cost coverage through StudentCare, they don't know, I guess, a lot about that organization and what it offers. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you could maybe provide a quick overview of what StudentCare is and sort of how we partner with them.
Of course. See, we in WUSA, if you didn't know before, we are the ones who get the insurance you have, right? From dental to your health plan for individuals who are not covered by OHEP. We pretty much get that insurance for you. StudentCare is our broker. So they're not our insurance company, but they're the guys that we go to, who go to our insurance company and get the info that we need for us. It's very technical and boring, but if you stay with me, I think you'll learn something here. The StudentCare group represents not only us, but a whole bunch of other organizations and student associations. They only work with schools, actually, and student associations. They manage something around $200 million, I think, in assets across the board. So they're very well-versed organizations, highly profitable for them, but also, we get very good deals using them for our group. So we talked about genuine affirming care with them. We got some prices. We saw, again, a lot of it when it's finished. We can talk about it more publicly with the student body, but we're in negotiations with them currently to try to get the best deal, the cheapest deals with the biggest coverage, pretty much, is the goal. So we're working with them and other partners across, but they're one of the good groups. I was there for 2 days, very quickly, just to meet with their tops executives. We had a chance to meet some other student leaders who showed up. It was a shareholder meeting more than anything as well, so we get to see all the other groups and chat with them and gain some knowledge in how we can best navigate the field and get the best deal for the students. Yeah.
As someone who's going to be sort of making those decisions throughout the year on, coverage that StudentCare offers, traditionally this is known as someone who's gone myself as an opportunity to, I guess, butter you up as the decision makers for all students on campus. And so I guess, reflecting upon your trip, do you feel sufficiently buttered up?
I don't know. I don't really think so. I think we went into it knowing that there's a lot of issues currently with our coverage. Actually, Sun Life used to be the insurance group that covered it. Now they were bought by an American company that has come into the market. That has nothing to do with us. Like, we can't control who buys who. But they're now our new insurance, the American guys. And they're a little bit new to the market. So I brought up concerns that, we want to have things like direct billing now set up across the board. So students have very good and adequate access. For the most part, they do. There's some holes that they're not working on because, I hammered it down. I was like, you want to keep me as a client. This is what you're going to do. But their team is very receptive to us. And I think we'll be patching those holes and expanding our coverage for our students very shortly, pretty much.
Sounds good. That's nice to hear. And so I guess that moves us on to the final leg of your, 3-day or couple trip that you went on to USA in Toronto. Yeah. And so I know that you were elected, VP of Finance. Traditionally, not something that people would, associate you with. So why did you go for that role, I guess, is my question.
Yeah. I think, look, every time you do this job, when I become an executive of that organization, like, I have my portfolio here at Waterloo, but you also have to balance that huge portfolio of another company as well, right? The way WUSA works is that all the member schools, which are 7 currently in Ontario, that include things like Queen's University, Western, McMaster, Brock, Ontario Tech, even small as Trent, they're members as well. Laurentian just joined as well this year, so I'm in for
Poor Trent University, calling them small.
No, we love them. I love their executives. Great
finding
people.
Enemies already.
Great people. I'm not the most politically correct person. You guys will find throughout this interview, but I like to think I'm honest, so it works out. But I went for the finance position because it's important that we make sure that the student money, especially when we pay the second highest one, right? We're a big school. We're a very financially capable school as well. Our association is very strong. We're actually, I would argue, one of the strongest in the country currently. It's so important that we spend the students' money adequately and not let them waste it on random and useless stuff. So with the VP of Finance, I get to oversee that financial structure. So this is not a big corporation. We have 4 full-time staff on that side who help with lobbying, and of course it's us as well who do a lot of the groundwork, right? It's like the budget is under $1 million. So unlike the huge budget we have here at WUSA, they're smaller, but still it's student money that's being spent. So it's important that we have good oversight over it. And now Waterloo Student Association through me has that oversight, so we can make sure that dollars are spent in an adequate and reasonable manner, so we can get the best lobbying, but also be financially responsible.
I think that's a good answer. And so I guess with that, financial responsibility piece, what are the big things that USA is going to be working on this year in terms of, policy objectives?
Next week, we're going to set that up. That's what I'm going to. We're going to set up an annual plan that goes over every single advocacy position. I know that we at WUSA will be pushing for things like housing, transit, mental health support. Specifically, you know how hard it is today for our students to get ADHD tested, for example? God forbid you have dyslexia or so on. Campus wellness has something like 1.6 year wait time for something like an ADHD test. That's crazy. Our students cannot survive in environments like that. So it's about working with our provincial government to make sure that there is right legislation, but there also is right best practices set for universities, so people can have the resources necessary, right? If you have ADHD, you shouldn't be penalized for that. You should have at least the basic minimum access to be tested on a reasonable timeline. So it's about working on those issues and making sure that we can work on them. And listen, advocacy, especially when talking to government, takes a long time. This year, I'm going to set it up. My whoever comes after me for years later will hopefully get a result in something like 3 to 5 years, because legislation takes a long time. Politicians take a lot of talking to for them to accept that students are actually a group that matter and need support, right? We're small fish in a big pool, but we're still there fighting. So I firmly believe that by putting those priorities forward, we can achieve a lot of good things. Yeah.
Sounds good. And so for the average, university student out here at Waterloo, who might not, have the same opportunities as you to be jet-setted across, Canada.
Train that not even fly once, saving money.
Jet-setted on private, first-class train, okay?
Not even first-class train.
Business class
economy. Cheapest you can get. Let's make that clear.
For those students out there, how do they, get engaged with, advocacy and things like that?
This is a fantastic question, Rory. This is great. We actually at USA have a lot of internship opportunities for people to come in. We use federal grants to pay for it usually. Job programs exist that we can leverage money for. Right now, we're looking for Indigenous advisor actually to come in and help us indigenize the organization a little bit more, get some best practices set up there. That application is actually very much open, and you could contact us. I just forwarded to our team just today actually to send that job out. By the time you watch this, I don't know, maybe a couple days have passed, but the job application is up there. You could always go to USA's, which is literally just OUSA.ca on our website, and you will be able to see the job opportunities we have. But listen, you don't need to be going around talking to politicians to create change. That's one part of it, sure, but anybody can get involved, as basic as joining things like committees here at WUSA. We have a whole bunch of committees like Advocacy Positions Committee, something even like an audit committee, which is very important. Nobody likes finance, but an audit committee is very important too. And things like that you can join as at-large members. So those opportunities exist throughout the year. And we have a whole bunch more. If you go to WUSA, or go to Jobs and Opportunities, you can see all the different things we offer that you can get involved in and help out and have your voice heard. And you can always run in elections, which should come up next year. And you could run to be a member of board or do my job when I hopefully retire, and take over and push out and do the advocacy that we have set up. But there's always ways to get involved, and it doesn't always need to be as formal as being a vice president of so-and-so or talking to a member of parliament of so-and-so. Yeah.
Sounds good. Down on the ground is always, one of the best ways
to
get started.
Yeah, grassroots is where it all comes from, right?
And so, getting back to your position directly here with WUSA, I know that, annual planning is something that's, currently being discussed within the organization. Have there been any discussions around sort of what those big advocacy asks are going to be, either, towards your stakeholders that you mainly work with? Next
board meeting, actually, we're going to push that forward. I'm currently, a lot of this first month has been training staff, making sure everybody knows what they're doing, getting schedules up, getting committees up, we sit on a lot of university committees as well, making sure the right people are sitting on that, making sure we have the resources necessary. Usually that's what May is. Starting June is when you set your advocacy positions. And usually the way the system works is that in July and forward, you're going out and you're actually advocating and meeting with members. I already have meetings set up with the mayor and a whole bunch of different members of parliament. It's just about they're more down the line, so we can set up things like our advocacy position of what we want to talk about when we get these, big wigs, as I call them, in rooms, so we can actually advocate properly to them. So that's something we're going to be setting up. And again, it's not my decision. In our system, board makes that decision, who the students elected, and I bend the knee and advocate for whatever their power is or whatever board wants me to do. We're agents of the corporation. We serve the needs of the shareholders, which is the students inevitably, right? So those will be set out hopefully end of June, or beginning of June, most likely. Yeah.
Sounds good. Do you feel like you're very good at bending the knee in terms of following what the organization requires you to do?
Good governance, you follow your boss's order. And who are my bosses? The students. Well, technically the board, and then the students who elect the board. So yeah, we do what we can. It's
okay.
To pass the rebel forward, as I say. Yeah.
Sounds
Rory
good.
would know.
Of course I would know, having done the role for a year now. I know it is, a big time sink, as we talked about earlier.
It is a time sink. Yeah, it really is.
I appreciate, as a, now just a regular common student, the time that you and Nick put into the role, most certainly.
There's a lot of work we do, but it's good work, right? We did this job because we want it. And it's when you see the changes reflected, when you actually achieve stuff, and you're like, oh my God, I made that difference, it's always the best feeling, actually. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good.
As you can see, this segment is sponsored by Smart Water. No, I'm just
sponsored by Smart Water. Oh,
it could be. We should. Why not? It's money. That's money you have to pay if Smart Water pays us. That's all I'm saying.
Down the line, hopefully we'll get some sponsors.
Yeah.
I know that
Sponsorship.
Chaska, the new restaurant, is soon to be opening up.
Yes,
so
how exciting
we
is
can
that?
maybe give them some shout outs in the future. I know that looking forward, we're deciding whether board members or other guests should be joining us on the podcast.
Why not?
And then depending on how it's looking, we can also invite you and Nick back on to give sort of updates throughout the year of how things have been going. I know at the start.
As I go bald, how things been going on?
I know at the start.
No, everything's going great. Everything is great. Honestly, we're doing really good this year. We are the most efficient. I think our budget looks great as well. We're saving so much money, and we're expanding our business operations. Like getting a new Indian street food restaurant. Like not many schools associations do as much as we do, believe it or not. So we're doing pretty good in sense of expanding now and delivering. We have a geese statue coming to campus. So lots of fun stuff. That was behind long before my
long
time.
Before your time.
My choice, but
long
it's
before
still
my
cool.
time, in fact, too.
Yeah, there we go.
I know that in our discussion with Nick on a previous episode, we talked about how other student organizations, they very much operate as like the president and the VP staff basically run the organization in terms of they're also doing accounting and marketing and all that. And so how are you finding WUSA's structure, and is there anything that surprised you, I guess, when you entered the role?
We are very different. No, I originally thought we were very unique in our government structure, but many other student associations do it just like we do. I was talking to people from the University of Saskatchewan, and they had very similar systems, a lot of other schools as well across the board. The way it works is this, right? If I'm doing accounting work and marketing work directly, that's less time I have to do actual advocacy and set up actual long-term plans for the organization. So we have a lot of full-time staff, a lot of wonderful, really passionate staff who are highly underpaid but do a lot of good work for us, and they work to they're highly experienced too, right? I mean, what does a 20-something-year-old know about how to do really effective marketing when it comes to even things like politicians and so on? So we have a lot of resources. You should see in the background what the team are doing. Some crazy stuff out here. Only if you could see what's going on. So we have a lot of good time full-time staff. I think our system is good. I think we have a board that makes sure we have a good, financially healthy organization, and we have a whole bunch of committees that students can sit on. Again, like as at-large members as well, who set up a lot of our advocacy positions across the board. We just got an ad hoc committee as well up with the members of the Senate and a whole bunch of AVPs from a whole bunch of student societies across the board. So it's very exciting to have everyone's voices come in, and of course our job is to disseminate that to the best of our ability. Shout out, I'm going to give the arts student elections just ended. That's very exciting. I'm very happy and excited to see the new arts student union team come in. My faculty is, of course, the arts faculty as well.
Yes.
Minorities out here, but we're surviving. So it's good. It's very exciting. So it's about going actually to societies as well. If it's NSOC, if it's Arts Student Union, SciSoc, whatever, and having them also contribute their voices is a big part of my belief, and of course our team belief as well, in building that student-centric voice across the board.
Sounds good. Okay. I would be remiss if I didn't ask on the podcast here. I know that things have been going on both on our campus, but also at Queens and some other campuses around Ontario with the encampments.
Sure.
I know that WUSA has obviously put out a statement. Yeah. Is this something that's been discussed at CASA and UCRU and USA, or is that something that is yet to happen?
It is not, and it really, the mandate those organizations have is a little different than we do as well. So no discussion of that has come up. They're very niche in what they advocate for, right? It's very nichely focused on educational issues, things like OSAP, housing, transit, and really that's written in the mandates of what they can talk about, right? And that's what they were designed for. So usually I wouldn't expect them to comment on anything geopolitical. I don't think they would say anything, although they could. Depends on what is within the legal limits of the organizations and their scope of operations, as well as what the members of its board want. Yeah.
Sounds good.
No, but we in Waterloo put out a statement, very much, as everybody saw, which I'm very happy with. A very good statement.
Okay. Now, before we end it off here, is there anything that you'd want to communicate to the students who are listening in?
I promise, smart water is great. But besides that, the Loki, I'm not sponsored by them, I promise. Or maybe I am. No, I promise I'm not. But mostly I'm not. Listen.
That's how he's supporting his, first class travel. Smart water
fake. This is the propaganda the media throws out. This is why we love journalists. I'll tell you guys what. I think what I would leave students with across the board is get involved. go out, explore campus, take advantage of our resources, get to know WUSA a little. We're much better people than you think. We're here trying our best to suit stuff and work stuff, and we have a lot of complicated issues that we deal with, so we do what we can to the best of our abilities to really get stuff out. And we really are trying to connect with student body this year. I think that was a big mandate that came through the election, so we're working on a lot of projects, but again, they take time to be implemented, to be worked on, to be developed. It's months of work. But reach out. I mean, hey, my emails are on the website. My office is right here in SLC. Come by, say hi. We have a very open door policy. It's important to hear from the students, and I'm around. But when I'm in the city, I'm not having to travel for business meetings. We should do more online. I'm going to push them to do more online. But that's that. Yeah. Make sure to reach out and use our resources.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well, thank you all for watching. Thank you for joining us for the second episode. Putting up with us, and I encourage you all to connect as much as you can with WUSA.
Yeah.
This is our second episode. We'll see if there are any more.
But hopefully, what type of podcast has 2 episodes?
Oh, this is
He's retiring too after this. That's what I'm hearing.
This is a pilot. We want to see.
Nice.
I know that we did Winging It last year, and so either we'll rebrand that or we'll see sort of a new structure of how it works. I know Board has been very interested in joining in on these sort of things.
Okay, why not?
They very rarely get the opportunity to connect with students as well.
Yeah, I've been pushing them. Like, sign up for every public event there is. Go shake some hands. It's important. That's awesome. Well, hopefully this succeeds. Well, this will be in the archives in 6 years. Somebody's going to look at this and who is this? What is the random things on the camera? I also want to say thank you to our cool co-op students. That you can see their faces. They're across the board. But they set up this awesome camera system. It looks really cool. So shout out to them as well.
Indeed. Shout out to them. Thank you all for watching.
Awesome.
And we will end it off.
Peace.